Conceive, believe, achieve.
This is former UFC middleweight champion of the world, Michael Bisping.
Paddy the Baddy here. You're listening to Combat Sports UK.
And you're watching Combat Sports UK.
Hey everybody, before you jump into this week's Combat Sports UK podcast, I've got some exciting news for you. Do you want to look as stylish as Thomas Shelby when you train? Do you want to experience the comfort that can only be achieved by a cup of tea on a cold day? Well, good news for you guys. Ex-Martial has partnered with us, Combat Sports UK. They are the fastest growing brand in martial arts for a reason. They are making waves and taking practitioners with their slick, stylish, and hilarious designs that are fit for a king. From rash guards to shorts, streetwear, and more, Ex-Martial has got you covered. Ex-Martial is an extremely community-oriented brand, having given away over $50,000 in free gear last year alone, as well as sponsoring over 300 athletes. And if you shop using the code CSUK10 at checkout, you can get 10% off everything in store. That code again is CSUK10 at checkout. Go and check out xmartial.com and enjoy the fight.
Sports UK podcast. This week we're going to be previewing UFC 307, which goes down in Salt Lake City this weekend. This is a banging card. It's an Alex Pereira fight week, one of the most exciting fight weeks out there at the moment. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Jon, tuning in from Canada as usual. How are you, Jon?
Good. What about you guys?
Yeah, all good. And we're also delighted to be joined by Dan Evans today. How's things, Dan?
It's all good. Not as sunny in South Wales as in Canada, but we take it here.
I would say your weather is similar to what it is here in the very north of Northern Ireland. It's not great either. Cool. This is going to be a really good card. I'm looking forward to this one. Back on another pay-per-view. We'll have to start off with the main event. Alex Pereira taking on Khalil Rountree. This was one that surprised everyone. I know at the time, Jon, you were pretty disgusted at the fact Rountree was getting this matchup. Do you still feel that way, or have you changed your mind a bit?
I was never disgusted. No, I had a preview about it a few months ago with Taylor. I was ecstatic. I couldn't hold the excitement in because I think this is a crazy, crazy matchup. I think it's classic striking versus Muay Thai. The only part is how does Khalil really deserve this title shot over maybe Jamal Hill or Ankalaev? But Hill lost to Pereira. Ankalaev has a fight booked. If you're looking down the lineup, this is probably the most exciting fight we have for Alex Pereira, and this is just a crazy matchup. I think this is going to go blow for blow, punch for punch, kick for kick. And I can't wait to see this fight. I actually, in my predictions, every time Pereira fought, for some reason, I always picked the opposite person. And he kept winning. So I don't want to jinx him when we do our predictions. So I will go with the opposite of my predictions. But everybody's gonna say, so not to jinx Pereira. But I think this is gonna be an amazing fight while it lasts.
I must have picked that up wrong. I thought you were disgusted at this matchmaking.
No. I love it. I love this matchmaking.
Cool. I'm glad to hear it because I thought you might have been a bit angry about it in this pod. So I'm glad to hear it. This is a really interesting fight, as you say. It's the Thai kickboxing against the Thai fighting against the traditional kickboxer and Alex Pereira. What's your thought on this one, Dan Evans? We'll start off by asking, do you think Khalil Rountree deserves this? He hasn't fought anyone close to the level of Alex Pereira. His biggest win so far is against Anthony Smith, which was in December last year. I know there was the whole thing about the PEDs, so that's why he's been out for so long. But do you think he deserves this matchup, Dan?
I think, there's one person at light heavyweight who deserves a title shot, but no one wants to see him take that title shot. So that's why Ankalaev is now fighting Rakic. So I think you look through the rest of heavyweight, you do sort of land on Khalil Rountree, even though that Anthony Smith win, to me anyway, as a fan, doesn't want you a title shot. It would be nice if he had a win over a Rakic or someone like that. I think in this circumstance, I can see why he's got it. Like you said, at number 8 in the rankings, he's performed well. He's on a good fight win streak, and I think, like I said, like John said, this is a fan friendly matchup. This isn't one that's going to turn people off like Magomed Ankalaev would. So I think it's a Khalil Rountree is a fan friendly matchup. Definitely worth that main event slot in UFC 307.
I think the story of Khalil Rountree as well is commendable since he started training MMA, because he hasn't actually been training it for that long. I think he's only been training MMA for 15 years. So he is relatively new to the sport. But if he does win this, the story is unbelievable. And the fact, it would kind of remind you of like a Sean Strickland against Adesanya type win, a similar type performance to that, in the sense that, but then I would say Strickland was even more tested than what Rountree has been, so it's maybe even more of a underdog story than that. But this is a really, really interesting one. I just don't think we've seen Rountree getting caught before against guys like Johnny Walker, and Pacino caught him as well, I think it was. But this was a long time ago, and he has went to Thailand since and refined his skills, and he has looked very good since that. But I don't know. Do you think there's a lot of people overlooking Rountree here? Do you think that he has got a really good chance of being the guy to stop Alex Pereira at lightweight, Dan?
I no. To put it simply, no. I think the only man who's got the chance is Magomed Ankalaev. He needs to do something against Rakic that isn't a decision. If he can get that a violent stoppage, a quick submission, then by all means give him the title shot. And that is where I see Pereira possibly losing his belt if he's still like heavyweight champion. Now, I think he does beat Khalil Rountree. I think he's fought strikers that are better than Khalil Rountree. Not many. I think it's purely just Adesanya when he was 75. But I think for Pereira, I think Rountree is someone that he can tee off on. Now, can't let Pereira tee off on you. He's as simple as that. You've got ungodly power. And it's one of those things that, Khalil might shell up for a round, or I think this is done in 10 minutes, and I think Pereira is holding that belt at the end of it. Whether he stays like heavyweight, that's another thing, and that might be a question for Thomas to answer next year.
I think, I think even if Ankalaev does get a decision win in his next fight against Rakic, I still think he has to be thrown in there for the title. I can understand why the UFC has made this fight with Khalil Rountree. As you said, it is a fan-friendly fight. Both of these guys aren't going to shoot for takedowns. There's been one takedown between them in their whole UFC career. It was from Alex Pereira when he took Adesanya down. So, and Rountree's come out and said that he's not going to shoot for takedowns as well. And it's quite commendable the way he said it as well. He says in an interview done with Michael Bisping that if his coach was to tell him to shoot for a takedown, he would sack him. Shooting was a bit for it. He would sack him on the spot, because it's not what he's built his game on. And why would you alter your game plan so much that you're not going to use the thing that you've refined and perfected over so many years in his Thai boxing and Thai fighting in general? So I can see why they went for this over the Ankalaev fight. But if Ankalaev gets a win against Rakic next, he has to be next in line. They put it out there, John. Do you think if Khalil Rountree, because we haven't seen him test it, if he took on the other contenders in the light heavyweight division, such as Jamal Hill, Yuri Prochazka, even Jan Blachowicz, could you see him beating them guys?
Oh yeah, I believe so.
Think
so. He was scheduled to fight Jamal Hill. I could see him beating Jan Blachowicz. I could definitely see him having his way in a fight versus Hill, but I don't know if he'll beat Hill. And Hill lost a lot of his aura fighting Pereira, and then since losing, just been talking a lot of crap and not being able to back it up really, and it's been kind of an angry rant. So it's kind of mixed feelings there. But like Dan said, Pereira has ungodly power. Rountree has ungodly damage when he fights people. He literally just damages people until they break. If you think about Smith, you think about Dawkins, you think about Modescus, Carl Robertson, ever since he went to Tiger Muay Thai, or he went to train in Muay in Thailand, came back with Eric Anders, looked completely different. But we did see some holes in his game, and let's be honest, Eric Anders is not at the level of the top 5, top 10 of even top 15 of the light heavyweight division, right? So he still had work to do in his game, and like you said, he did like lose to Kotalaba, and then Pacino did kind of rock him at some point. But then something clicked, something switched. He is in his, let's say, second half of his prime career. Something clicked, and he's able to have this crazy streak of like just hurting people until he's up to the title shot, right? And then now he's there, although it is coming off a win versus Anthony Smith. Anthony Smith is a former title challenger, not like 5 years ago, yeah, but still has a name recognition. He did do damage, and if you look at the rankings, Pereira beat almost everybody already. He beat Jan Blachowicz, he beat Jamal Hill, he beat Prohaska twice. So I think Rountree is the right person. Of course, you'd wish he would have beat a Jamal Hill type person, because then you have no undisputed claim of saying he cannot fight for the belt. He has to fight for the belt if he beats a guy like that. But I think it's our like second best option, and you can't complain if you look at this matchup.
Do you think he's more deserving than Ankalaev?
I kind of don't like Ankalaev, but in terms of deserving, probably. But in terms of Ankalaev, who has he beat as well? He hasn't. If you're talking about we're talking about Rountree, who has he beat to fight for the belt? Who has Ankalaev beat? His last win was just against Johnny Walker. He has wins over Kotalaba as well. He hasn't fought he drew versus Jan Blachowicz. He was clearly losing the first 2 rounds. I think in my eyes, he was actually down 3 rounds to 2 versus Jan. So in my mind, he kind of lost that fight. Could have been biasness. There's nobody else who did Ankalaev really beat to also deserve it. If we're talking about deserving of beating somebody to fight for a shot, he's just on a crazy win streak, or a winless, or a not a loss streak. What do you call it? Because he has a no contest in there, so, or a draw. So he's in a crazy streak. Yeah, an undefeated streak. But clearly, if we're talking about who has people beaten to fight for a belt, Rountree and Magomed Ankalaev has more to claim. But just who's a more of an exciting fighter, it's definitely Rountree.
I think something that people's forgetting as well when they're talking about the Ankalaev kind of deserving it, because there's people online that thinks it is a complete and utter joke that he is not next, but he did have a shot at the title and he didn't take it. Yes, it ended a draw, but it was a pretty boring fight with Jan Blachowicz. So it's like not as if that he's been crying out for this title shot and he's never had it, because he did have his chance and he didn't take it as well. So as much as he is undefeated, and I can't even remember how many fights it is now, but I think the UFC has done the right thing here. And saying that, any kind of win over Rakic and Ankalaev has to be straight in their next. I think it's an interesting matchup because we haven't seen Pereira fight an all-out grappler like Ankalaev, so it does give him a different test that we haven't quite seen yet. In terms of official predictions then, Dan, we'll go to you first. What have you got for this one?
I've got Pereira. I'm not backed against Pereira unless his opponent's been Adesanya. So I'm going to stick with that. And yeah, I'm going Pereira. I'm going early, round 2. I think Khalil can withstand round 1. I think he's got a very good shell. He can defend quite well, but I think it's gonna break, and he's just gonna get through to him. Whether it's a one-hit quitter like his Hill finish and the Prohaska finishes, I don't think so. It could be accumulation of damage. But like I said, I think it's round. I don't think we see the 3rd round, and I think it's a 2nd round TKO or KO for Alex Pereira.
John, what's your thoughts on this weekend's main event? What's your official prediction?
So, like I said at the beginning, I've always went every single pick since Perb in the UFC. I picked against him, and he's been proving me wrong. Except that one time Izzy beat him. But I think I don't want to jinx him, but I'm gonna go Pereira. And I know Pereira loves finishing people in the second round or getting finished in the second round. So I'm going to go Izzy. Pereira, Poatan, KO, round 2.
I think I'm going to make a hat trick for round 2 KOs. I think he's just too good. I think the only way Khalil Rountree is going to win this fight is if Alex Pereira is overlooking him, which I don't think will happen either. But Alex Pereira, if he goes in there and it's on his day and he is preparing for this fight in the same way that he has any other fight, and we've got no reason to believe that he hasn't been, I think it's going to be the Poatan show again. Moving on to the other title fight on the card. This is for the women's bantamweight title. We've got Raquel Pennington taking on Juliana Pena. Looking forward to this one. We haven't seen Pena. I actually didn't realize how long it was since we hadn't seen her, because she's always bounced about on interviews and she would be quite vocal. You kind of forget that we haven't actually seen her fight since she got beat by Amanda Nunes, which was then, when was that? I think it was June 2022. Am I right in saying? Is that right? I just need to double check.
Yeah,
June
Vancouver.
June
Yeah,
2022.
so.
Like that's a hell of a long time ago. So I don't know about this one. It's a kind of hard one to pick, and we're talking about the championship, and I think we'll discuss the bantamweight championship again as we move further down the card and bring Kayla Harrison into the situation. What's your thoughts on this one, Dan? How do you see Pennington match up against Pena?
I think Juliana Pena's sort of UFC career is sort of overrated. I think it's the talking on the mic that's got that shot. The shot that she did take is very much flash in the pan. That second Nunes performance is one of the most dominant performances by a champion. I think you saw scorecards, I think it was 50-45, 44, 50-43. It was dominant. It showed that Pena was nowhere near that level. Now, Raquel Pennington, like you said, she's good when she's lost 4 years. And I think that activity, I know it's once a year, but these are female champions, they do tend to fight less. I think Pena is in for another beating. And I don't think she's going to reclaim that belt. And I think Pennington's going to keep her belt. And I think that it's most likely it's going to be a decision. It's unfortunately, like you said, you're talking about the women's bantamweights without Amanda Nunes involved in that. Unfortunately, is quite decision heavy. So I think for Pena, it's going to be another a shot in the dark. And I think she might pick up rounds, but I can't see her reclaiming her belt. Like I said, her win before fighting Nunes was Sarah McMahon. Now, how many years ago is that? And where's Sarah McMahon now when it comes to UFC?
I was in the McGregor Poirier 2 undercard. That's how long ago that was. So I think, as you said, the story of Juliana Pena has really been around Amanda Nunes since 2021. And say what you want about that first fight, that was a bad night for Amanda Nunes, and she put things right in the second fight. Do you agree with that assessment, John, or do you think we're not giving Pena enough grace here?
Absolutely. I think you're correct. Maybe a little bit not enough credit to Pena. She only has 3 losses in the UFC, and it's Shevchenko and Durandamine and Nunes, all former or current champions in the UFC. Right. So it's all she is, it's just because the women's division, now there's a turning point. The women's division have like strong prospects coming in, but Pena was one of the first ones early on, coming from tough. And now she's the veteran, right? She's 35 and Pennington's 36. This is the old guard fighting probably to the belt one last time, and then we'll see a new wave of champions coming in. Even I believe Shevchenko too, even though she just won the belt, but there's new fights up in the line for her, and there's definitely people here at bantamweight division that trying to get the old guard out of the way, but probably not giving enough credit to Pena. If I beat Amanda Nunes, I would also talk all this crap and believe I'm the best person in the world. So I can't really blame her. The fact that she kind of doesn't kind of dismisses the last Nunes fight where she got 50-43 in June of 2022. I think that gives off the O'Malley, Colby Covington delusional vibes that we even spoke about recently. So it's odd that she kind of ignores that, but I feel like I would ignore that too. The most intriguing part of this is how it should look like after 2-year layoff in a couple of months, fighting back for 25 minutes, especially with Pennington being semi-active, because she also hasn't fought since January now. She hasn't fought since beginning of the year, and now she's fighting again. And we're talking about the new guard. There's somebody who's fighting right before them, who is 100% winning their fight and fighting for the belt. So we all know this is like the title fight, but not like the actual title fight. This is just to see who's gonna fight Kayla Harrison next. And I feel like we all be on unanimous decision thinking that Kayla Harrison will become the champion, no matter who she faces.
Yeah, I think that is the whole narrative going into this, and it has been in the bantamweight division for so long. But no matter who holds the title now, I actually thought it was going to be Bueno Silva. I kind of picked her at the start of the year. They won the title that fight in January of Pennington. It was a surprise to me that Bueno Silva lost it, and I was quite impressed with Pennington. But as you say, as we move down this card, the real bantamweight challenger in Kayla Harrison. But we will discuss her a bit later on. In terms of official predictions, I'll kick us off with this one. I'm going for a Pennington decision. I think her boxing will be too slick for Pennington. I think she'll try and mix in a bit of grappling and maybe get a round or two. But I just think overall, the ring rust will kick in. There's no way Pena is going to be. She wasn't the slickest of strikers anyway. She was more looking for that wild kind of overhand. Swinging, as you say, Russian kind of style. But I think Pennington's just going to be able to pick her apart, keep her at bay, keep the distance, and I can see her winning a unanimous decision. We go to you next, John. What's your thoughts?
I think Pena's got this. I think Spania got this. I think she took a beating in her last fight, and I think whenever we see someone get a beating or get knocked out badly, we're like, we should take time off. And I think that's what she did, because she was really, really active right before fighting Nunes. She has a couple of injuries here and there, and she kept recovering. And she had finishes in her last before the last Nunes fight. She had 3 finishes in the last 4 fights. People keep forgetting that. It depends who she fought. However,
she also got finished, but
she got finished, yes. But I will go with Pena unanimous. I don't know unanimous, but Pena decision win for sure.
And you think it'll be a tight fight then?
I think it's going to be one of the most boring fights on the card. I think we're going to see a bunch of wrestling and kind of like standing on top. I don't think it's going to be much damage thrown. I think it's going to be less than 50 significant strikes landed in this fight. I think it's going to be a lot of wrestling, a lot of on the cage kind of holding and trying to get someone down. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be one of the best fights.
Are you saying that we're going to get an extremely boring women's title fight, 2 pay-per-views as the co-main in a row?
I don't see how this looks any different. They're both, yeah. Pennington has like probably good boxing. Pena has like, she's definitely a wrestler. She's definitely sloppy striking, and tries to get people down. I think it's definitely going to be someone's going to push somebody against the cage and try to get down. You just got to look at Pennington's last fight too, and Bueno Silva, and I was there live, and I mean, we're not going to go crazy for that fight versus Bueno Silva. I don't think we're going to go crazy for this fight either. I think more of the same. Bueno Silva, she was a jiu-jitsu girl. She couldn't even try to submit Pennington. Pennington had the chance to ground and pound and finish the person, did not even do it. I don't think she learned from that fight. I think that's who Pennington kind of was in her older age fighting with her win streak now. So she's kind of playing it safe and trying to get the decision win. And I think that's what we're gonna see Saturday. Unfortunate as it is.
I hope you're wrong, but I do agree. Apart from the fact I think Pennington's going to get the hand raised, not Pena. Dan, what's your official prediction for this one?
Well, I'd love to sell the card as John has just trashed the co-main event, but I completely agree with everything he said. So I think it's going to be, unfortunately one of those where it's mentioned in the same vein as Nama Yunus and Esparza. Unfortunately, it's just going to be another one of those, I'm afraid. But I think it's going to be Pennington who takes it. Now, I think we all agree it's very much a case of this belt is on loan with this individual until Kayla Harrison gets her shot next year. So again, everyone's pick is going to end in the same way, where Kayla Harrison holds the UFC title in 2025.
I agree. Moving on then to the King of Rio fighting in Salt Lake City, Jose Aldo. I thought he was pretty much done in the UFC last time out. What a performance from him. He really, really surprised me in that fight against Martinez last time out. I'm hoping it's more of the same. He's got a difficult opponent here in Mario Batista. It's going to be a difficult fight for him. It's kind of similar to the Martinez fight in that he's fighting a young gun, someone up and coming through the ranks. Fair play to Jose Aldo for taking these fights. He's not looking for legacy fights. I actually think he's got his eyes on a title run here, which a couple of years ago I never thought I would say. How do you think Jose Aldo matches up in this one, Dan?
I think with Jose Aldo, I think that Rio performance is something that, even the walkout with the crown, it was just perfect for him. I think it was an excellent showing for an icon of the sport. And I think why not go for a title shot? Like I said, he's 4-1 in his last 5. That only defeat comes to Mirab. It's in the same location as this weekend, but it's Mirab. You'd be tired fighting him, everywhere. I don't think the location is really going to come into it when it comes into this fight. I think Bautista's got a different game to Mirab, and it's definitely not as pressure heavy and draining. It might be wrestling based, but I think Aldo can keep it standing, and I think this could look quite similar to the Martinez performance, where is Aldo an underdog in this one as well, as he was in the last one? Does anyone know?
He's a slight underdog, yeah.
Underdog. Well, I'll be picking him on my parlay, I'll tell you that. So I think he's done I think his case of, turn back the clock. Like I said, 4-1 his last 5. Last 4, looking at Martinez win, Rob Fonts, Marlon Vera, he's beaten people far above the level of Mario Bautista, and I think he can do serious damage to him this weekend.
Yeah, I think it is lining up. He was a slight underdog going into that fight against Martinez as well. He is in this one. It could be a very similar performance. I think the key thing is here is that if Jose Aldo can keep this on the fight, I do fancy him. Mirab tried to take him down many times, was it 16 times or something? And he was able to defend
in the
them.
first round, 16 times.
That's crazy, isn't it? So I do fancy Jose Aldo's chances of stopping Mario Batista's takedowns here. What's your thoughts, John? Do you think Batista will have any chance on the fight? Do you think his only route to winning is through wrestling? What do you think?
No chance on the feet. I think even in the wrestling, like you said, although stuffs so many Merab's takedowns, and if you look at Aldo's record, like Dan said, he is 4-1 in his last 5 in the UFC. He only lost to Merab, who is the champion. Before that, who has he lost to? Peter Yan in a title shot. Before that, who he lost to? Volkanovski, who is probably the featherweight GOAT now. Who lost before that? Who he lost to? Max, and who he lost to before that? Connor. So it's all champs, former champions, people who are considered one of the greatest of all time at featherweight, and Max and Volk. Connor, that 14-second knockout, okay, Merab, current champion, he could go on a crazy run. Depends who he fights. So people forget, and it's not like Aldo retired and sat on the couch, drank beer, and ate steak. He was doing boxing, and maybe got some stem cells or something like that in the meantime. But he's been active. He's been training. He hasn't been lazy. He's been like kind of taking the GSP approach of retiring if you want, and went to boxing. Actually wanted to do something different. Don't focus on the wrestling, which is what Merab did in his last UFC fight, and kind of had a tougher fight. And we all know Batista is not Merab. He's not going to be throwing 72 takedowns in the first minute of the fight. So he'll have his chance, and Aldo can crack. I do think Martinez is a way better striker than Bautista, obviously. So I think he will have a much better outcome in striking here against Bautista. We might see maybe a finish, go back to Aldo's always. But I think Aldo is going on a title run, kind of. I just don't see him going past the top 9 in the division. Like top 8 division, pretty stacked. If you look at the bantamweight division, like Song Yadong is at 8, so he beat Rob Font, who's at 9. Aldo's at 10. Bautista's 11. So if you look up, Song Yadong might be a cool fight, but then Cejudo might be too if he's still fighting. Top 5 is O'Malley, Umar, Jan, who he lost to, Sanhagen, Figgy. Then you have Cejudo. So I think he could go up to 6 if Cejudo, because he's just ranked there. But I don't see him going for another title shot.
Yeah, and I think if the division was a bit lighter looking, let's put him in the lightweight division right now where there's not too many contenders. I think he would get maybe fast track to a title shot, but as you've just mentioned, the bantamweight division is incredibly stacked at the minute. We've just had Mirab Dawishvili winning the title. Looks like Umar Nurmagomedov is next. You have Peter Yan, who's taking on Figueiredo in what looks to be a contender fight. So you do wonder where Aldo does fit into all of this. But in saying that, if there's someone that deserves to be fast tracked, if there's someone that can pick, let's say in an ideal world, if he picks up a win on Saturday night, let's say he gets matched up against Corey Sandhagen or maybe the winner of Figueiredo and Yan.
That would be murder.
Big if Jose Aldo wins that fight, the UFC would love to see him back in a title shot. They would love to, but as you say, I can see him climbing to maybe 6th in the rankings, and I don't know if he's got what it takes to go any further than that in the current state that he's in. I think the reason that people are kind of writing him off as well is, as you mentioned, John, it wasn't as if like he retired. I don't think Jose Aldo helped himself, because if he had a fought after being beat by Mirab and stuck around, people maybe wouldn't have been writing him off so much. But it was the fact he went away and done boxing, and usually people do that at the tail end of their career, so people just assumed that was him done. But of course, last time out in Rio, they needed someone to come in and save the card, and they shone the light, and Jose Aldo appeared. So fingers crossed he gets the win. It's always nice seeing guys like Jose Aldo, legends of the game, picking up wins at this stage of their career. We'll kick off with you, John, for the official prediction. What are we going for here?
I would like to see a finish here. I did predict he's going to finish Martinez in their last fight, but this is against Bautista, but Bautista has more submission wins than KO wins. I hope Aldo makes a statement here, so he does get that title fast track. So I will get a second round knockout by Aldo. Get a lot of leg kicks going and get him caught in the head.
Head kick? Is that what you're saying?
No, leg kicks. So he's gonna kick his
kick.
legs away. He's gonna kick his legs away and then move on top to his head slowly and get caught.
Nice one. I hope it does play out that way. Dan, what's your thoughts?
I'm like John said, I'd like to see a finish. Whether we get it, I'm not sure. I'm thinking decision. Ideal world, Jose Aldo kicks his legs off, finishes it in round 1, gets that mic in his face, and says, Sean O'Malley, I'm going to kick your fucking legs off. So let's take those away and then beat Sean O'Malley and you're straight into a title shot. I can't see that. And I can see Sean O'Malley fighting Corey Santego, which in itself is a great fight. But Jose Aldo, I'll go decision. I know John's, gone out there with a finish, but I think it's going to be a decision.
I'm going to agree with you on that one, Dan. As much as I would love to see a finish, I think Jose Aldo will kick his way to a decision win. I think he'll be able to use the kick to kind of scare Batista off from the takedowns. I think he'll be able to stuff any takedowns he has early on, and Batista will be forced to stand and trade with him. And I think he'll be able to kick his way to a decision win. I'm looking forward to it. Fingers crossed Jose Aldo gets the win. I think most MMA fans love Jose Aldo. I don't think there's too many that wouldn't be a fan of him. So fingers crossed it all works out for him on Saturday night. Moving on then to a fight we've alluded to a few times here. Kayla Harrison taking on Caitlin Vieira. An interesting one because I think everyone's going to pick Kayla Harrison in this one. Kayla Harrison is becoming a superstar within the women's division. She is an absolute animal. She is a scary, scary looking woman and a two-time Olympic judo gold medalist, which speaks for itself. I think that's what she'll use here. I think she'll be able to get the takedown early on. What's your thoughts on this one, John?
I mean, I think he summoned up pretty well. I think everyone is like overlooking by a long shot Caitlin Vieira, even though she is on like. Never mind. I thought she was on a crazy win streak, but I thought that was before her win. But no, I think Caitlin Vieira absolutely doesn't deserve this fight. I think it was just get her ranking spot. In the way Kayla Harrison fought Holly Holm, she had one UFC fight, and she's already the uncrowned champion. What she did like at PFL or Bellator at the time, whatever it was. She talk about she's gonna fight Amanda Nunes. They train at the same gym, and then that's why Nunes left, and she's this judo gold medalist at the Olympics. She has one loss in her career, and then people already written her off. Then she came back, and like poof, we all forgot about that loss in the PFL. So I think everyone's overlooking Caitlin Vieira, and as you should. I think this is an easy easy layup for Harrison. You get the win. Hopefully it's a stoppage like you did versus Holm. You call out for the fake title shot that's happening at this co-main, and then you have the title shot booked either January or February pay-per-view. Because I don't know how long it takes her to cut the weight to go to 135. I think it takes her. She has to do it properly. It has to take her a few months to be in fight camp, train, and cut the weight. But I think this is a clear as clear as water could be that this is the next title challenger.
I think this here looks like it's just one of them ones where you can't put Kayla Harrison into a title fight after winning one UFC fight, even though it is against Holly Holm. So why not throw her in there with someone else who's beat Holly Holm in Vieira? As you say, she got beat by Pennington 2 fights ago, so it's not as if Vieira has went on this long unbeaten run at this moment in time or anything like that. What's your view on this one, Dan Evans? Do you think it's going to be all Kayla Harrison, or do you think Vieira is going to throw anything at her that she won't be able to deal with?
I think it's going to be very similar to what you. It's going to be the Kayla Harrison show. I think that's what you're going to hear here. You're going to hear that on TNT Sports. You're going to hear that on ESPN. It's very much going to be the Kayla Harrison show. It's up to Caitlin Vieira to really upset the apple cart. I can't see that happening. I can see tests. Like you said, it's going to be a harder fight for Kayla Harrison than Holly Holm. Holly Holm was, aging over the hill, as some would say. And Caitlin Vieira has been active. She has got good wins. She, like I said, I believe it's about 14-3 record. It's not shabby at all. And she is close to a shot at the belt. But like you said, Brandon, is going to be Kayla Harrison couldn't get a title shot after defeating Holly Holm in her very first UFC fight. She needed someone else. I think Norma Dumont and Irene Aldana got matched for the Sphere. So who are you left with? Ketlin Vieira. That's the one to go for. Like I said, I can't see anything other than a Harrison victory. Whether that's a finish, I'm not too sure. I think the UFC want it to be a finish, but again, I think it's going to be a very, very tough task for Ketlin Vieira to get anything from this. And yeah, no, I do envision Harrison getting her hand raised, and then early next year, looks at like John said, January, February, get that title shot, get that win, and then pull out Amanda Nunes for some sort of comeback fight. That's the main route to go down.
I think the reason they didn't book, they could have easily. I think they could have easily booked after winning Hall against Holly Holm, booked Harrison title shot. I think they didn't want Juliana Pena to scream at the UFC for another kind of couple of months. I think they're kind of more like, okay, let's just give Pena the shot, and then just whoever wins will get Harrison. And Harrison, I guess, wanted to fight. You could easily have given the shot to Kayla Harrison after one win. I think it's the Julia Pena aspect that like make her shut up.
The other thing is too, looking at the next title fight, if Pena was to get the one here, Harrison and Pena is a lot more attractive than Pennington and Pena. You know, like Harrison and Pena will actually sell quite well, even if Pena will talk as if she's going to win the fight. She will believe in herself and she will have the confidence to go in there and have a good scrap with Harrison. So they're maybe looking at that as well, because the whole narrative around Pennington is, and I know she can't help it, I do feel for her, but she is one of the most boring champs that we've had. She's not big with the media. She doesn't do many things outside of it. Her fight style isn't the most exciting. She's a rightful champion, don't get me wrong, but I think it suits the UFC. They try and get Pena and Kayla Harrison for the title as opposed to Pennington and Kayla Harrison as well. Official prediction then, guys. I'm going to kick us off with this one. I think Kayla Harrison, round one. I'm not giving Ketlin Vieira much credit here, but I can't see her stuffing a takedown. Kayla Harrison, the way she threw Holly Holm, that judo throw or that hip toss, can't quite remember exactly what it was, but it was a thing of beauty, done it with ease. I think she'll be able to do the same to Vieira on the first attempt, take her down, land some ground and pound in round one, and get the finish in the latter minutes of round one. Dan, what's your thoughts? Who are you going for this one?
I think Kayla Harrison can finish the fight very early. Like I said, TKO submission. Like I said, if she gets her down, Ketlin Vieira can threaten off her back. Like you said, she has got that good issue, but I think the dominance in wrestling from Harrison, easy decision. That's all going to be credit to Ketlin Vieira and the toughness. I'm sort of hoping that there's going to be decisions throughout the main card, so that when I wake up, I can actually watch Alex Pereira versus Khalil Rountree. I'm hoping it lasts that long into the night. But no, I think I will. I'll go with Harrison decision, because I believe John's probably going to go Harrison round one, like yourself. So I think I'll give Ketlin Vieira the credit of getting to see the judges, but yeah, it could be a dominant, possibly a 30-26, that sort of thing, where you're looking at a 10-8 round in there as well.
I hope you are absolutely wrong about all the decisions, because someone who watches the pay-per-view live, I'll be so pissed.
Have a bit of remorse
I'm in
for
the
us
UK,
here.
that's the problem, yeah.
Come on, John, have a bit of remorse for us trying to fight our tiredness, trying to watch these pay-per-views. I do tend to wake up for the pay-per-view, but usually I have to rewatch it the next day, because you're not really you're fighting tiredness, and especially when it's a decision as well, like a boring fight. There's times I have caught myself falling asleep. But John, you're speaking from a place of privilege here. But
hey, you guys have
you
have reasonable F1 times, so I have reasonable UFC times. I think it's a good trade, but I'm happy with the
F1.
UFC times.
Not for me, no.
F1 means nothing to me. What's your thoughts on this?
Same as me, but
What's your official prediction?
Dan was right about me. I'm gonna go first round. I want to say, however Kayla wants. It could be TKO. She could batter the girl in her face. She could submit however she wants. I'd like to see some slick jiu-jitsu actually here. Maybe going for an arm bar, for an head and arm choke or a triangle. Or TKO, just any kind of finish. However Kayla wants, she will get it. Round one. It's not even going to go past halfway. Under
Halfway
2.5 minutes.
halfway around one.
Under 2.5 minutes. That's make that bet. Make that bet. Dan, add it to your parlay. You got to add it to your parlay.
I will. That you might actually get plus money on Kayla Harrison if you bet that, but I think that's probably the only place you'll get that. Anything else, you're looking at minus 1,000 at least.
Yep.
I actually don't even know if you would get plus money on it. She's going to be such a big favourite going into it. Moving on then to the main card opener, we've got two madmen in this one. Roman Dolidze taking on Kevin Holland. This is going to be such a fun matchup. Both guys are a bit mad. Holland is obviously coming off a great win against Mikhail Olechinchuk. That armbar win he got. Dolidze coming off a great win against Anthony Smith at UFC 303. Great win. You can see he pulled the face there. A win against Anthony Smith, shall I say. He did take a late notice. That was the most cursed fight of all time. I think Dolidze was originally meant to fight the week before, and then it got pushed because that was the same fight that, believe it or not, Jamal Hill and Rountree was meant to be fighting in at the start, wasn't it?
Yep.
And then it got changed that much. I was actually surprised Dolidze stepped back down the middleweight because he's unbeaten at light heavyweight. And that was something that I pointed out getting into the Anthony Smith fight. I picked him to win because anytime he had moved up to light heavyweight in the past, he had got a win. So I was kind of surprised that he stepped down to middleweight for this one. What's your thoughts on this one then, Dan? Do you think Kevin Holland, do you think he's got what it takes? They stand and bang with Dolidze, or how do you see this matchup going?
Well, if you look at just the two of them, just their frames, purely their physiques, you're looking at Dolidze, who's dipping between light heavyweight and middleweight, and looking at Holland, who's going between middle and welter. Purely, just you're going to look at strength, power, everything's going to side with Dolidze. Now, I think with Holland, he can bits. Like I said, that finish last time out was excellent. The armbar from, I would just call him Michael, because that finish over him was quick, and that's what you want from Kevin Holland. But I think this might be a step too far from him. I think Dolidze might have his way with him. It might be a dominant sort of 3-round decision where Dolidze really enforcing it, really showing that strength. But I think Holland, he can get that win, but it's going to have to be quick. It can't be something that drags on to the later rounds, because I think Dolidze is going to be wear down Holden. It might be quite an ugly fight. I hope not. I hope it's exciting, because the rest of this main card have big decisions. So I hope something lights up John's life, I'm afraid. But I think Dolidze is probably going to be, I think it's going to be a bit too strong for Holland. I think it might dominate this fight.
That's an interesting one, because Dolidze is actually coming in as an underdog, and just talking about par days and accumulators, this was one that I looked. I thought this was a good dog pick going for Dolidze. John, how do you see this one? I think Dan Evans kind of alluded to it there, the stature difference between these two. In terms of the strike, and I see it as Kevin Holland more the long rangier, throwing sort of more kicks to keep the range. Dolidze throwing more unorthodox style and the more wild swinging. It kind of, on the feet, it would remind you of Israel Adesanya against DDP. Similar sort of styles, obviously at a much lower level. But what's your thoughts on it, John? Do you agree with that kind of comparison?
Yeah, and as crazy as to say this, I think Dolidze has cleaner striking than DDP. DDP looks like someone's pushing him. Dolidze kind of like, he looks like a man in front of you. He's like, give me a punch and I'll give it right back to you. Yeah, but Dolidze's looked kind of terrible in the last few fights, right? Like against Anthony Smith, against Imanov. Like, oh, me and Taylor were talking about back in the day, like, he lost against Vittori, but we all thought he did win that. But was it an amazing, crazy fight? No, I think whenever you fight Vittori, it's kind of like goes the same way. Like goes the same way. Like he's gonna try to wrestle you sometimes. He's gonna try to pick you up on jabs. As he's not an exciting fighter. And Dolce dealt with that. And Imanov, he kind of got rocked in the first round, and it took him 4 more rounds to kind of regain consciousness. And Imanov was kind of just kept wrestling him. And then Anthony Smith, like, I don't know what the hell that was. I wish I could remember that fight, but I'm kind of glad I can't, even though it just happened last time Pereira fought versus Yuri, which is UFC 303. We're just 4 pay-per-views later, and I can't remember this fight, and I don't remember it. That's how bad it was. I think Dolce, as spoken earlier, Dolce lost all of his aura, and I don't see how he would match up with Kevin Holland. Holland is like just kind of jumpy guy. He has his kung fu type style. He loves fighting. He would fight anytime, anywhere. Holland has been super active. And he doesn't have to cut as much weight as Dolce would to make middleweight. I think Holland has to step up on Dolce here.
Why do you think Dolce has stepped back down the middleweight, considering he is undefeated? I know you're not a mind reader and you won't be able to get inside his mind, but looking at it from the outside, can you see any valid reasoning behind that?
But who has he fought at light heavyweight to stay undefeated? Like Anthony Smith, yeah, we all know Anthony Smith. He kind of just beats people who are like the very young up and comers, like Victor Petrino. Other than that, who does he beat in light heavyweight?
Just looking at the names now, no big names, but he's still unbeaten. No one's still found a way to beat him at light heavyweight.
Yeah,
I don't know. I just think, you look at middleweight. He's been beat by like Trevin Giles. I don't know. It just surprised me that he stepped back down, especially after getting that win against Anthony Smith. Because yes, Anthony Smith is, he's not a contender by any means, but he was doing all right there for a while in the light heavyweight division, and it was a very, very, very boring fight. But Dolce stepped in there at late notice and did get the win. I don't know. It just surprised me that he has stepped back down.
I don't know. I don't think it really matters. I think Dolce, his natural weight class is middleweight. If you can make that weight, and you know how weight classes work, if you can weigh in you make middleweight on the Friday, and then Saturday weigh in 205 pounds, 220 pounds, I think you should make middleweight if it's as easy. I don't think I remember Dolce being hard on the scales, because you want to have that weight advantage. It's just a weird fighter because he came out so hot in the UFC, and like I was high on him, but when he was facing tougher competition, it didn't click. But Georgians are kind of on a run right now with featherweight and bantamweight. Maybe Dolce could get one. I just don't see him getting past Kevin Holland, because Kevin Holland is just such a fun fighter. I think Kevin Holland's allergic to prelims. I don't remember last time he fought at prelims. I think Zoe is like starting the main card, or in fight nights, non-pay-per-views, he always is like the co-main or right up there. So I think Holland is going to be a fun fight. As long as Holland avoids the big shots from Dolce, I do think he's a bit taller than him and lengthier. So I think Holland got that in the bag.
Both these guys do have a bit of grappling as well. I think it's pretty evenly matched if it does go to the ground. What way would you see that going, Dan? Do you think Holland could lock in a submission the way he did against Mikhail Olechinchuk, or do you think, because Dolce does have pretty good jiu-jitsu as well, so that's something I would be interested in seeing?
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely the ground is where you could see both fighters having their way. Like I said, you can see it going one way then the other. I think I tend to agree with what John's saying about Dolce. He has disappointed really in his last couple of fights. They've all been very much, do you really remember them? Do you want to remember them? It's that sort of performance. He needs a statement. He needs a Ferrezian versus Matt Favola. He needs to really light this card up. I can't see it happening. Whether that's a submission, whether it's a finish, I just can't see it. With Kevin Holland, he is tough. I believe his only finish is, when he's getting finished was Thompson, but that was like very much the corner. It wasn't something where you see him getting smashed. So I can't see Delize finishing Holland. I could see possibly getting a 29-28. Split decision is something I'm looking at here. A close fight, some grappling exchanges. Unfortunately, it's not gonna make the card any more exciting for you, John. I think it's very much just you banking it all on the main event being the fight of the year. But other than that, I think the grappling is going to be, again, it's very 50-50. But again, if I'm just looking at it on pure power, pure fancy getting that finish, though, I think it's you looking at decision in this fight.
So your official pick, Kevin Holland decision?
No, I think Delize to get decision. I'll flip
Delize
flop on it just like the judges will. Yeah.
I do agree. Not that I'm going with my head over my heart. I'm more going to go Delize because I think he's a good underdog at the price he's at. He has got a chance because Kevin Holland, who knows what Kevin Holland's going to bring? Kevin Holland is an absolute madman.
Exactly.
I don't think Kevin Holland knows what he's going to bring. So we could go out there and Kevin Holland could try and shit talk Delize the whole fight, and Delize could catch him. He could get a decision win. But I'm going to go for a Delize decision. What about you, John?
I'm going to go opposite of you guys. I'm going to go Kevin Holland decision win. I don't see somebody stopping Delize, but I don't see Delize overpowering Kevin Holland just all based on his last two performances.
Nice one. Now, very, very quickly, I'm going to ask you for a couple of prelims picks. The one that jumps out to me is Wonderboy on the prelims for the first time since 2013. Last time he was on the prelims, it was on the Jones and Gustafsson 1 undercard.
Damn.
That's how long ago it was. And what's your thoughts on the Wonderboy fight? I don't think we can skip over it too quickly. Dan?
Oh, I think it's a well-matched fight. I think, like you said, with Stephen Thompson, you don't want to be putting him in there with your grappling heavy fighters. He's there to entertain people. You put him in there with, the likes of Joaquin Buckley, the likes of MVP, however cagey the fight possibly would be, but that's the type of fights you give him. You put him in with Shavkat will submit him, so you know what you want to do with Stephen Thompson. I think this is a matchup which is kind to him. I don't think Joaquin Buckley is going to offer anything that Stephen Thompson's not seen before. But again, I think it's very much a case of how is that age getting to Thompson now? Is it very much a change in the guard? Is he on his way out as Joaquin Buckley is rising in his career? So I think it could be a sort of an element of timing, and I think this could be a chance for Joaquin Buckley not to finish Thompson again. Sorry, John, but it's another decision that I'm feeling myself.
Let's hear it.
I will agree with you. I do say it's a decision. However, I do see it as like a classic Wonderboy performance. If you think of Wonderboy performance, I think of him when he fought like Vicente Luque, when he fought Jorge Masvidal, when he fought Jeff Neal, when he fought Kevin Holland. As in, like his kickboxing will be out of worldly. Buckley, we all know, moves forward, is chicken without a head, just keeps running forward, and Wonderboy's gonna catch him. He's gonna catch him however he likes. He's gonna catch him with a front kick. He's gonna catch him with a jab, and he's gonna keep dropping him. He's gonna keep catching him. Buckley will be too strong for his own good, and I think Wonderboy just is too good. Buckley's never seen a kickboxer like this in MMA, and Buckley's only chance would be kind of wrestling and getting him down. It's either, to be honest, how I see it is a Wonderboy performance like that. But I could also see like a small % chance we might see how Bilal and Gilbert did Wonderboy and just kind of hold him down and kind of just make it a boring fight and punch him, barely do damage on the ground.
I was going to say that would be good for you, John. I'm sure you'll enjoy that.
Oh no, I'll turn that TV off right now. But in my pick, in my choice, I do think it's gonna be fight of the night. I do think it's gonna be fight of the night potential here. I think it's gonna be classic Wonder Boy. And if Buckley's smart, I know Buckley's going for a title run, but if Buckley's smart, he wants to make an extra 50 G's. He's gonna try to strike with Wonder Boy. I think he's gonna cut the angles, do your fast movements like I know he can, and kind of jump left, jump right, cut the angles, throw in the left, throw in the right, throw in some kicks, and get caught from Wonder Boy a few times and make that a fight of the night.
I think Wonder Boy is going to go in as if he has something to prove here, because Wonder Boy don't want to be stuck on the prelims no longer. I don't even think Wonder Boy deserves to be on the prelims, to be honest. He's had so many great fights, and I think his fights will continue to be great, whether he's on the winning end or the receiving end of a loss. He does try and make it as entertaining as possible. Is there any other prelim picks that's jumping out at you?
I just want to mention we have a former 2-time champion retiring on the prelims. Carla Esparza. It's not a pick. It's not a pick.
Right.
It's not a pick. I'll tell you, but we have a former 2-time champion fighting in the early prelims against the wife of someone who's fighting at the co-main event, who's fighting for the belt. I was trying to mention that. That's not my pick, but my pick would be probably Hernandez versus Herbert. I think that'll be a fun fight to watch. I think just purely entertainment will be fun. It could go either way, and it depends what kind of Hernandez we see. If Alex Hernandez wants to be serious, if I could say that he wants to be serious, he will get the finish here. But Herbert will always keep coming forward, and Hernandez will keep coming forward. I think this will be a fun fight.
Dan, what's your thoughts? Has there any jumping out at you on them prelims?
That's not a fight I want to watch. So I'm thinking probably if you're looking on that set of prelims, you're looking Marina Rodriguez possibly in that strawweight contention against Lucindo. I think Rodriguez, whenever I've watched her, I said a record 17-4-2. You know, those 4 losses, like you said, she might be 3-1 in her last defeats, but you're looking at a split against Andrade. January fight was difficult for her, and she got caught by Amanda Lemos. Now that's strawweight. If you get caught by Amanda Lemos, it could be good night for anyone. So I don't put too much stock in her losses. So I think Marina Rodriguez is a level of Sindo, and this could be a real, a highlight for the card that I think might be quite decision heavy. So I think Marina Rodriguez could really pick up a bonus here, and that's going to be my pick from the prelims, other than Buckley and Thompson. I think, to be honest, the prelims aren't great. If you're looking at it, it's a lot of very much veterans against each other sort of thing. If you're a boxing fan, you'll probably look at these films and think, why is there no undefeated records here? Like, everyone's got at least like 6, 7, 8 losses. So it's a proper gritty sort of prelims. And I think Marina Rodriguez is the one who's going to step up, and she's going to get a performance of the night.
Yeah, I think you're bang on. That's a very good pick, and I think you're bang on in what you say, that the prelims maybe are lacking a couple of prospects, a couple of up and comers coming in there with clean records, and as you say, it is veterans against veterans a lot of the time, so there's not a massive amount on the line. That brings us to an end of this week's episode. I'm really looking forward to these fights. I really hope they don't go the way Dan has picked them to go, or else we're in for a boring one, folks. And hopefully we get plenty of finishes. There was plenty of finishes last week in the French card. Obviously the last pay-per-view was a bit lackluster as well in the Sphere performance wise. So we are due a good pay-per-view. We're due a very good pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I hope.
And it's not going to be this one. It's UFC 308.
Oh my god.
We put all the money on that. UFC 308 has got to be card of the year, 100%. That's where I'm putting all my money on it. It has to
over
be.
UFC 300. Come on.
Hey, look. Hey, when Max Holloway finishes Ilia Topuria, we'll all be singing and dancing.
Hell yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to this weekend too. Thanks for joining me, Dan, and thanks for joining me, John. It's been great chatting to you, and this will be out on Tuesday. As I mentioned in the last episode, we're going to be trying to bring this podcast to you every Monday/Tuesday. Fight card previews, fight card reviews, any news and gossip in the MMA world, we will be covering it. So make sure and subscribe to Combat Sports UK on YouTube. Thanks very much, guys, and I hope you enjoy the fights this weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks,
hopefully, you guys.
Cheers.
Hopefully, you guys are awake for the fights.
I will be.
I won't be. I tell you that now. Cheers.